Hello and welcome to Bearded Veteran Creates. My name is Mike. Today we're going to be doing a blind unboxing, and before we do that, I'll just give you a little bit of the backstory. As you may remember, recently I took part in the Model Officers 48 and 48 challenge, which is to raise funds for Models for Heroes. We had groups all over the world taking part, and we managed to raise over £9,000 for Models for Heroes, which is fantastic. During that weekend I got talking to Gary from the YouTube channel Gary Stuff, and it turns out that we both got a similar interest in history and military vehicles and things like that. So he asked if he could send me a parcel, and I agreed, and he hasn't told me what's in it. I don't know what's in it, and I haven't even opened it yet, so I thought I would open it with you guys today. Before we do that, please like, subscribe to my channel, and of course like and subscribe to Gary's channel, because he's awesome. He's far more knowledgeable than I am, especially on scale modelling, and he's also a bloody nice chap for sending me this parcel. He's just a nice chap in general, to be honest. So yeah, on we go. Like I said, I don't know what's in here, but I can tell roughly where the box lines are cut. What the hell have you done to me, Gary? Okay. As you can see, he's wrapped this up really well. Ready? Oh, look at that. It's the ICM US ammunition truck. Fantastic. Cheers, Gary. This is the kit I wanted this year. This is the one kit that I actually wanted to get this year, especially out of the ICM catalogue. It's going to be brilliant to build. Awesome. Thanks, my Gary. I really appreciate it, man. Swear. Okay, before we go on to the next part, I just want to give a quick disclaimer, and that is that I did record the kit review at the same time as the unboxing. However, after seeing what was in the box, I got a little bit excited and I started jumbling my words up, and the camera work wasn't great, so I decided to just use photos and record a voiceover. So if the sound quality is a little bit different, that's why. So with all that out of the way, let's move on with the video. First up, we have the box cover. As you can see, it has the usual distinctive ICM artwork. I absolutely love the ICM artwork. It stands out from all the other boxes in my stash. It's just beautiful. It's got nice, strong, clear colours, excellent detail, even down to the jack screws underneath the body of the vehicle. You know, it's got all the threads on and everything. Great print quality, nice crisp lines. And what I like to do is, once I finish the kit, is I like to cut out the vehicle and use them to decorate the cupboards in my modelling room. And after that, we've got the colour scheme end, which shows 3 different colour schemes from across 1918. It again has the kit number and scale with a nice cloud background, and makes vehicles and info stand out really nicely. One thing you'll notice is that no part of the box cover is left plain either, and the artwork does continue all the way around the sides of the boxes. And on the information end, again we have the kit number and scale, and we have some info about what's in the box. We have the ICM address. We also have the QR code that takes you to icm.com.ua. It tells that the minimum recommended age is 14 plus for the kit. It has a barcode. The only criticism I have is the amount of detail behind the information boxes could make it difficult to read for partially sighted modelers. But other than that, I don't really have any criticisms of the box art. At the other ends, all you've got is the box art again. You also got the information that you need, so the scale and what kit it is, just to make it easier, and doing different orientations so that if it's stood flat or vertically, you can still read them. And once we remove the box cover, we can see that the kit's actually kept in a plain white box. The box is made from 2mm double layered cardboard, which is a lot more robust than the 0.5mm single layered cardboard used by a lot of model manufacturers these days. The box is hinged along one of the long edges and is opened by unfastening the flap on the opposite side, which means that you don't have to take the sprues out of the box unnecessarily, which means they stay protected for longer. They don't get damaged, the decals don't get damaged either. Next up we have the instruction booklet. On this we see that we have the box art reproduced on the cover, so that it makes it easy to distinguish from other instruction books and leaflets and paperwork and whatever else you have on your bench. We also have the scale and kit number printed in a way that makes it stand out nicely. Underneath that there's a brief history of the vehicle in both Ukrainian and English. Underneath that, there's a few basic tech specs for the vehicle and a table of recommended paint colours with the corresponding letter code used in the diagrams. Again, next to that we have the number of the ICM paint set that they recommend for this kit, and we have an easy to read symbology along with a caution and a QR code which takes you to ICM's YouTube channel. Do go and check that out, it's really interesting, and they do have some of the builds on there. On the next page we come to the sprues, and on here we can see that they're really nicely laid out and really good level of detail. We've also got the ready orange boxes to tell you which parts are going to be needed and which aren't for this particular build. Personally, I would recommend that you don't throw the parts away that you don't need for this build, because they can be used for dioramas and spares or other variants of the kit, or even kit bashes and paint mules. Now we get into the diagrams, which are really well designed and laid out, and they've got excellent print quality and level of detail that makes each part easily recognisable. None of the diagrams are cluttered, and each step is clearly separated, making them easy to follow step by step, and everything is clearly labelled. It's almost as if it was designed by modelers for modelers. Ooh, right, now here we have the diagram of the axle and differential, and I chose this because I wanted to highlight just how good the detail is in these diagrams. So if we zoom in on the bolts around the differential casing, you can see that even though the entire bolt is only 0.5mm or 0.01 inches for our American friends, you can still see the flats on the bolt heads, which I think is pretty impressive. And they could have got away with not doing it, but it's nice that they're paying so much attention to detail, even just in the diagrams, to help us build them. On that note, one of the things I do love about ICM vehicle kits is the level of detail they put into the engines. Some might question the point of doing this, but I really enjoy them. Whether that's because I used to be a mechanic in the armed forces, I don't know, but it does add a little bit more of an experience to building the kit. It also adds a little bit more weight to the front end, so if you're building your model and putting it on an uneven terrain on a dyno, it'll help stop it tipping backwards. You can also use it as cargo, as wreckage. You can use it, in a diorama on its own. You could put it with other engine models. You can do a lot of different things with them, but I do think they are worth doing, and they are quite fun to build. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think the engines are worth doing? Do you think ICM needs to put more or less detail in? Do you want to see a kit where it's a series of different engines for the same vehicle? So for example, you have different engines that went into World War I tank, do them as a display or something like that. ICM do read comments on different people's videos, so let them know what you think. And who knows, one day they might even use your idea as the basis for a kit design, which would be pretty cool. Plus it also helps to keep the YouTube gremlins happy, which keeps my channel happy. So please do get involved in the conversations, because every time you comment it really does help. Speaking of which, this is the point in the build where the kit really becomes unique, because this is where we start to build a body that is specially designed to enable the FWD Type B to carry ammunition by loading it into a lockable metal body, giving it at least some additional protection from enemy small arms fire, whilst also minimising the risk of stray flame from oil lamps or cigarettes igniting the body and cooking off the ammunition. And on this page we can see that ICM has broken the ammunition box down into enough pieces to keep the build interesting without breaking it down more than necessary, for example by making the rivet strips PE parts, which a lot of kit companies do, which can put some people off, especially if they're not used to dealing with PE and things like that. Which brings me on to the next section, which is the tarp for the top of the box body. ICM have given us the exact measurements for the lashing points down to 100th of a millimetre or 0.0003 of an inch. Whilst they haven't given us a drill size, we can see that the centre of the hole is exactly 1mm from the edge of the tarp, so we certainly wouldn't want to be using a drill bit any bigger than 1mm in diameter. So whilst I really do like this idea, whether I'll actually do it when I build the kit remains to be seen, because I'm not great at these little tiny fiddly details. And as we move on, we come to step 108, which is pretty much the end of the build diagrams. But whilst that sounds like a lot of steps, remember this is a 14 plus kit, and they have done a separate diagram for almost every single step of the build. But again, the final detail is superb, and when you finish the build, the booklet would make an excellent little colouring book or teaching aid for helping youngsters learn about basic vehicle construction and military transport history, which is a fascinating subject within itself. And on the final couple of pages we can find the suggested colour schemes and decal options. My personal recommendation is to write down the colours and the corresponding letters on the suggested paints table at the front of the booklet before you even begin building. This way you can easily paint any tricky parts and areas as you go along without having to flip back and forth through the booklet all the time. Now that we've got the booklet out of the way, why don't we take a look at the decals? As we can see here, we've not got that many options with the decals, but that's not ICM's fault, that's more down to the fact that in World War I they didn't use many markings on wheeled vehicles. The exception being, of course, with ambulances and some armoured cars. But with that being said, the few decals there are really well printed, and having made ICM's World War I ambulance, I can tell you from experience that their decals work just fine, especially when using decal set and sol. Welcome to the sprue section. Here we're going to take a look at the sprues, and as you can see they're the usual grey styrene used by ICM. Whilst the sprues do feel very lightweight compared to some other kits, they are still strong without being brittle or soft. They also don't feel like they have any residue on them from the manufacturing process, which is great because it means there's less to clean up. Even the thinner parts are well supported, however they can be tricky to remove without damaging due to how close they are to the sprue, especially on things like steering wheels and stuff like that. On the flip side, you've also got the incredible detail in the parts, such as this leaf spring, where at its thickest point it only measures 3mm across, yet it has 10 leaves clearly moulded, which means that each one is roughly 0.3mm, yet the detail is still crisp and without seam or flash. And let's take a look at Sprue C, and whilst there are lots of parts on this sprue that won't be used, it does have some important parts on it, such as the fuel tank, radiator and bulkhead. One particular detail I like on this sprue is the design of the bulkhead, which would have been really easy to overlook to make production easier. But again, it's been perfectly reproduced, as you can see from this photo of an original World War I FWD Type B bulkhead. And one of the other things I like is that, just like any other kit, ICM kits have the ejection and injection marks, but where they're different is that almost every mark is deliberately placed somewhere where it'll be hidden once built, and where that isn't possible the marks are barely noticeable and pretty much flash free, just like the seams. And as we move on to Sprue A, we have the parts of the chassis and the drivetrain, including the engine, and again we can see that flash is pretty much a non-issue on this kit. And we have plenty of spare wheels which are meant for different variants of the kit, but could easily be used as cargo or as part of a separate diorama. Now, on that issue, whilst we look at Sprue B, we will only be using the bottom left corner of the sprue, because the rest is for the Type B cargo. But don't throw any of the pieces away, because the large canvas pieces can be used for making other things such as shelters, partially built vehicles, partially buried vehicles, or ideal for using as a paint mule due to the large smooth surfaces, making them perfect for practicing and experimenting with different spraying techniques. This part in particular is especially useful, as it's supposed to be the wooden deck from the back of the cargo variant. But that means that the planks are already marked out, allowing you to experiment with different wood marking and painting techniques without having to worry about damaging parts you want to use in a model or diorama. Sprue F focuses mainly on the ammunition carrier part of the truck, and it is really nicely detailed with plenty of rivets to pick out and plenty of joints and crevices to weather. Even the canvas has ripples and creases on it, but as you can see the lines and details are lovely and crisp with few imperfections. However, the large flat areas do have the very occasional faint line or ridge in them, but it's not so much that it would make any difference once painted over, especially if you're doing the camouflage pattern. I included this close-up to again highlight how much attention to detail the design team have put into this kit, because even the locking mechanism and the rivet layout are closely matched to the photos of not just reproduction vehicles and museum pieces, but also original photos from the Great War such as this one. And finally we have the clear parts, and in this kit there are only 3, which are the lanterns, as this particular vehicle didn't have any other form of lighting on it. The plus side is that you also get some clear plastic sprue which can be used to make sprue goo or diorama parts such as plasma balls for medics or drinking glasses. So with that being said, what do I think of this kit? Well, as anyone who follows my channel and social media pages knows, I love World War I vehicles and the history around them. I also have a massive soft spot for the ICM kits, not least because they're one of the top World War I kit manufacturers on the market, but they also have the most reasonably priced across the current range, especially when you consider the quality of the moulding, the packaging and the level of detail on the parts. Also, as I said at the beginning, I was sent this kit by Gary from Gary Stuff, so whilst I wasn't paid in any way to do this review, I was given the kit as a gift from a friend, so the other question is, if that weren't the case, would I have been happy to pay the £30 to £35 price tag for this kit? And the answer is yes. especially as you get far more spare parts in this kit than you do with the FWD Type B cargo truck, which retails at around the same price. That being said, it would be nice if there was an option to have the rear doors open so that you could do a loading-unloading diorama, as this isn't possible without replacing pretty much the entire locking mechanism and cutting the door piece in half due to the way the locking mechanism would need to be repositioned. However, putting that aside, I do love the kit and I'm really looking forward to making it. I can't thank Gary enough for sending it to me, or indeed ICM for sending it to Gary in the first place. So please do make sure you head over to their YouTube channels and make sure you show them some love, and subscribe to them and indeed me if you've enjoyed this video. Finally, if you've liked seeing this kit and would like me to do a video on the history of the vehicle it's based on, then please do let me know in the comments. But for now, it's goodbye from me, and remember to keep modelling, keep learning, and above all, keep enjoying this wonderful hobby of ours. See you soon.